What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel, where we speak the truth, we're honest, we give our takes on professional wrestling. It is Friday night, so that means we're here to talk about Friday Night Smackdown. As Smackdown took place tonight from Austin, Texas, they were at the Moody Center, home of the Texas Longhorns, and usually, so far, with these 3-hour SmackDowns, I would say by the third hour, I want the show to be over because it feels like a drag. However, tonight, the third hour, in my opinion, was the best thing on the show. The third hour had two really good matches, an okay main event, and the other stuff on the show was not good. And I felt so bored watching the first 2 hours that it was a struggle to get through. Like, there were times in the show I was flipping to the Sixers game to see how they're doing against the Cleveland Cavaliers. I did not think this was a good show tonight. I thought this was a very lackluster edition of SmackDown, and it feels like to me, and I kind of knew it before the show started, and today they only had 3 things announced. There was a ton of shit that happened on this show. There was only 3 things announced on this show tonight. It was a Cody Rhodes interview with Joe Tessitore, Motor City Machine Guns against Pretty Deadly, and LA Knight against Tama Tonga. And when I saw today what was advertised for SmackDown tonight, I had a bad feeling that this was not going to be that good. And so far, in 2025, this was probably the worst SmackDown episode of the year. Didn't like it. Very lackluster show tonight. The first 2 hours were a bore. The third hour was good. I thought the third hour was good. So, and what is also weird, and this is my opinion too. You don't have to agree with it. I don't care. On Monday, because I was watching the national championship game on Monday night, so I watched Raw on Tuesday. So, but on Monday, they promoted the shit out of Saturday Night Main Event. As they should. They had segments for it. They were setting up matches that don't make sense. We'll talk about it later. We'll talk about that later. But they were really promoting Saturday Night Main Event. And coming out of tonight, I feel like I was having a conversation with a friend, and he told me that he had that feeling. And I did too. That you wouldn't even know that there was a show tomorrow night coming out of SmackDown tonight, because all they did was a Cody Rhodes interview in the beginning of the show talking about a contract signing, a damn contract signing tomorrow night, and they don't mention it until the end of the show. Or, sorry, they don't mention it until right before the main event when they're running down the card. So, very much lack of promotion for the show tomorrow night. You wouldn't even know that there's a show happening tomorrow night. If you're a casual fan watching WWE, you would have been left in the dark that there was no show tomorrow. But yeah, man, that was something that I didn't like. There was so many other things that I just didn't like on this show either. There was good. Trust me, there is good. And we will get to that good. So, be patient. We'll get to all of it. I thank you guys so much for joining me here on the Big Fight Field channel tonight. Be sure to subscribe. We are close to 600 100 subscribers here on the Big Fight Field channel. Let's get to that pretty dang soon. All right, let's get to that maybe by hopefully the end of March. So that would be pretty cool. Subscribe to the channel. And if you haven't already, be sure to go ahead and check out last week's Smackdown review. I'll have that up in the last 20 seconds of this video. And then Dynamite on Wednesday. Also didn't like that show either. So, it's been a weak slate of shows for WWE and AEW. I thought Raw was fine on Monday. Dynamite was not good. Smackdown was not good. We'll see how Saturday night's main event is tomorrow night. So let's go ahead and start the Smackdown review. Show opened up with Joe Tess in the middle of the ring. Joe Tess is the man. He's such a great addition to the WWE. He is awesome. He introduces Cody Rhodes. This is a normal Cody Rhodes promo talking about Kevin Owens and how delusional he is and all that stuff. And Joe Tess did such a good job in this interview. He was my favorite thing about this interview. I didn't really have to care much about what Cody said about Kevin because we've already heard this. We've already heard what he had to say about Kevin, how he's not the real champion, how Kevin lives in his own world, and he's delusional to think that Sami Zayn has his back and all that stuff. Joe Tess then mentions, if you had one thing to tell Kevin, what would you tell him? And Cody calls Kevin Owens a genius inside and outside the ring. He's a phenomenal wrestler. But he would remind Kevin that he's beaten the World Heavyweight Champion Gunther. He's beaten the Tribal Chief Roman Reigns. He's beaten Logan Paul. And he names all these big names. And he says, if I can beat them, I damn sure can beat you just like I did at Saturday Night Main Event. And he said, I will see you tomorrow night with Shawn Michaels, and more importantly, at the Royal Rumble. He says my final words would be good luck. So I don't really have much to take away from this segment. We got way more from Kevin Owens in the next segment with Joe Tessitore than we did in this with Cody. The contract signing tomorrow night. Kevin Owens is doing such great heel work. My prediction for the contract signing is HBK somehow, I don't know how they're going to get to it, but Shawn Michaels, the orchestrator of this contract signing, is going to take a pile driver. I don't, if he's up for it, if he's not up for it, then it's not going to happen. But if he is, that would draw phenomenal heat for Kevin Owens. That would probably piss Cody Rhodes off even more. And that would just get him more over than he is as a heel. Kevin Owens right now is doing some phenomenal work as a heel. And it sucks because we all know how this is going to end next Saturday at the Royal Rumble. So we'll get to Kevin Owens in a little bit. Motor City Machine Guns against Pretty Deadly. Motor City Machine Guns defeat Pretty Deadly with Skull and Bones. Here's the thing about Sabin and Alex Shelley. They come out to such lukewarm reactions. It's like the crowd doesn't even care about them. But they are such great professional wrestlers. They are such a great tag team. And they work so smoothly that they have the capability to not be as over in their entrance, and then when they're wrestling, they're over because the crowd's like, these guys are really good. So they be pretty deadly. They look awesome. They are awesome. And it's not the last time we saw these guys throughout the night. So now Kevin Owens comes out. And he questions Joe Tessitore why he had time to interview Cody Rhodes, but he didn't have time to interview him. He says, "You make me sick, and you make me miss Michael Cole." But Michael Cole's not here because he's kissing Pat McAfee's ass. I laughed my ass off at that one. That was funny. He then gets on the apron, or not the apron, the commentary table, and he asks why everybody wants to be Cody Rhodes' best friend. He pretends to be your best friend. He uses you, and then he ultimately stabs you in the back. That's what he did to me. He says, the crowd's booing, and Texas Longhorn superfan Matthew McConaughey is standing right in the front row, and he says, "What do you want, McConaughey?" He says, "You look stupid, and I'm going to beat Cody Rhodes so bad at the Royal Rumble, just like the Ohio State Buckeyes defeated the Texas Longhorns so bad." So then out comes Jimmy Uso, and Kevin asks him what he wants, and Jimmy says, "You talk damn too much." They start brawling, and that's your main event. That's how we get to the main event tonight. Kevin Owens against Jimmy Uso. So we go back from commercial, and we have The Miz. And the transfer window, I've kept calling it the transfer portal because of college football, but I'll call it the transfer window. The Miz is with Nick Aldis, and he says, "I brought you in to congratulate you." And he says, "Congratulations, you're a member of Smackdown." And The Miz is not happy about this because the Wyatt Six are on SmackDown. And he says, "The whole reason I got rid of the Wyatt Six to SmackDown was to stay on Monday Night Raw and get rid of the Wyatt Six forever." But Nick Aldis says, "My only piece of advice for you, because the Wyatt Six are here, is to make new friends." So later on in the night, he is talking to Grayson Waller and Austin Theory, trying to recruit them to take on the Wyatt Six. They're buying into his bullshit. Nick Aldis comes up to them and he says, "Waller and Theory, pack your bags. You guys are being moved over to Monday Night Raw." So now The Miz, it seems like the final testament's going to be staying on Raw, and The Miz is going to have no friends against the final testament. Who can possibly care about the Wyatt Six at this point? Who cares? Triple H dropped the ball on them, and they're going absolutely nowhere. Nowhere. Maybe they'll get more television time on SmackDown than they would on Raw on Netflix. Michin and B-Fab against Chelsea Green and Piper. Michin pins Chelsea with Eat Defeat, and the whole story is here that Michin never had the numbers in her favor. It was always 2-on-1, with Chelsea and Piper getting the numbers game every time on Michin. Now B-Fabs came into the fold. She's helped out Michin. And because of B-Fab, Michin pinned, I don't know. The way she cut this promo after the match backstage, it was weird. But the end-all be-all story is Michin beats Chelsea Green, and she's getting one final chance at the Women's United States Championship next week on Smackdown. I'm sure Chelsea Green is going to win that one. Then for the second week in a row, we get a Charlotte Flair video package. She says, I have a strong legacy in my WWE career. She says, the GOAT doesn't have to call themselves the GOAT in her video package. And I have it here somewhere. She also says, I've crafted a legacy no one can touch, and I know exactly who I am. I'm back. I will walk out of the curtain. I will walk through the curtain in Indianapolis at the Royal Rumble, because I'm declaring for the Women's Royal Rumble. And I will walk out with chills in my body and a tear in my eye as I walk into the Women's Royal Rumble match. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we're going to be doing Royal Rumble predictions here next week on the Big Fight Field channel, but Charlotte Flair's winning the Women's Royal Rumble this year. And the reason being is, I believe I said it last week on here too, that WWE themselves are telling the fans not to invest in women right now outside of Nia Jax. And that's not counting the champions. I'm not counting Rhea Ripley, and I'm not counting Tiffany Stratton, because they're the champions. They're not participating in the Royal Rumble. They're not making you believe that any woman has a chance. So, I said it last week. Someone returning is going to win the Women's Royal Rumble. It's either Charlotte or it's Becky. And those are probably your two matches at WrestleMania. It's probably Charlotte against Tiffany, and it's probably Becky against Rhea. And who wins the Rumble and who wins the Chamber, it doesn't matter. But they told you tonight that Charlotte is back. Charlotte's in the Rumble, and she's winning. They didn't tell you that, but I'm telling you that. But, okay. This segment and this match, my God, lazy as they come. This segment was so, I don't want to say rushed. It felt very lazy. Very lazy by Triple H. This was a old WWE-esque segment produced by He Shall Not Be Named. We had Tiffany Stratton talking about how all 30 women in the Royal Rumble will fight to challenge her at WrestleMania. And this brings out Rhea Ripley because fuck the brand split. She says she came out here because she heard Tiffany say that all 30 women are fighting to fight her at WrestleMania. But she came out to remind Tiffany that she is also a world champion as well. And she congratulated Tiffany. She said, I'm happy that you defeated Nia Jax and you've came really far. And Nia Jax and Candice LeRae interrupt. So we get this gigantic mess where everyone comes out and they declare themselves for the Royal Rumble. We get a month's worth of build in one segment, and it's very lazy. And Nia, this made no sense. Nia declares herself for the Women's Royal Rumble. But she says, you guys are probably confused because they're like, Nia, aren't you going to be the Women's World Champion going into the Royal Rumble? She said, yes, but I'm still going to enter so I can go to WrestleMania and kick Tiffany Stratton's ass. So this made no sense because they basically told you without telling you that Nia is not winning tomorrow night against Rhea Ripley. And this is ass backwards for tomorrow night. Okay? Why is WWE booking a match between Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley? I'm sure the match is going to be fine, but it makes no sense storyline wise because we're getting a match between Nia Jax and Rhea Ripley, which has no build at all outside of Monday night. Monday night was the only night they had build for this match. Instead of doing Nia against Tiffany, which has been a story that they've had for 6 months, which should culminate in a one-on-one championship match with Tiffany going over without a cash-in. Why on God's green earth did they go with Rhea Ripley against Nia when they should have went with Tiffany against Nia? I have no idea. And why on God's green earth they had Nia go out in the ring and declare herself for the Royal Rumble, I have no idea. And that made no sense. So out comes Bianca Belair and Naomi, and they're chit-chattering. Naomi's going to enter himself in the Rumble. Bianca's going to enter herself in the Rumble. And then Liv Morgan comes out, and she's going to enter herself. You see what I'm getting at with this? This all could have happened in a span of a month, like it did with the men's Rumble. Instead, Triple H did it in one night. This was so lazy and so bad. And then they set up a 6-woman tag, Rhea, Bianca, and Naomi against Nia, Candice, and Liv Morgan. The match was fine. Who could possibly care about this, bro? Who could possibly care about a 6-woman tag thrown together? Liv's got a match next week on Smackdown. Did they clarify that Liv is transferring to SmackDown? They sure as shit did not. So if she hasn't declared herself through the transfer window that, hey, I'm on Friday Night SmackDown, why is she on the show? This was so bad. Everything about the women's division in this segment was so bad. The match wasn't bad, but again, who cares? Who cares? Liv Morgan, she pinned Bianca Belair with a roll-up after a KOD to the illegal partner Candice LeRae, and Liv Morgan rolls her up and pinned Bianca Belair. Let's move on. Nick Aldis is in the back with Carmelo Hayes. And Carmelo is like, I want Jimmy Uso. After last week, I want Jimmy Uso again. And Nick Aldis says, you're going to get Jimmy Uso next week on Smackdown in Indy. But while you're here, we have someone new coming in from Monday Night Raw to the transfer window. And I think you'd be a great first opponent. So, finally, they've booked Carmelo Hayes to actually act smart. Because for a couple months now, he's been booked like a dumbass. Last time this happened with Braun Strowman, he lost in 18 seconds. So he's like, before I agree to a match, I want to see who this guy is. Great. Good step in the right direction. We get back from commercial. Carmelo's standing with Nick Aldis. And here comes Damien Priest. Damien Priest gets in the face of Carmelo Hayes. He says, I'll see you in the ring tonight. And Carmelo walks away. This is the type of addition that Smackdown needed. Smackdown needed a guy like Damien Priest because last week I mentioned that we have a 3-hour episode with a roster that fills up 2 hours. So having guys like Damien Priest transfer over to SmackDown is a smart move. And they also had a tease between him and Cody Rhodes on this show tonight. I doubt that happens at WrestleMania. If anything, that is a post-WrestleMania feud. So, which is not bad. They would put on good matches. They have in the past. I like this a lot. I like this move for SmackDown a lot. And, man, please don't transfer the Judgment Day over to SmackDown. I just want Damien Priest stress-free. I want him free of the Judgment Day. No more Judgment Day for Damien Priest. Please. Apollo Crews against Johnny Gargano. Apollo Crews wins after a surprise roll-up. Ciampa is standing on the apron trying to distract Apollo Crews. But indeed, Johnny is the one who gets distracted because he sees the Motor City Machine Guns coming down. So that means Ciampa gets distracted. He lays his eyes on the Motor City Machine Guns. Apollo rolls him up and pins Johnny Gargano. So Apollo beats Johnny. Johnny's furious. And later on, we get a face-off backstage between DIY and the Machine Guns. And it's confirmed by Nick Aldis that at the Royal Rumble, it's going to be the Motor City Machine Guns against DIY for the WWE Tag Team Championships in a 2 out of 3 falls match. That's a match I can absolutely get behind. Number one, the tag team titles have not been on pay-per-view since WrestleMania of last year. So, finally, we've got these titles on pay-per-view. Number two, this will be the Motor City Machine Guns' first pay-per-view match in the WWE. And it's against Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. I expect this match to be really good. I expect this to be a really good match. And I'm looking forward to this a lot. Tag team wrestling. Who would have thought in the beginning of AEW, their whole focus was, one of their main focuses was to revive tag team wrestling. Who would have thought that 6 years later, we'd be sitting here saying that on Raw, maybe not Raw, but on Smackdown and NXT, that Smackdown and NXT have a better tag team division than AEW. And that's a fact, folks. That's a fact. So let's get into hour 3 here. My favorite hour on this show. LA Knight against Tama Tonga. And LA Knight cut a pre-match promo. This was great. He gets on the mic. He says, last week, you two cross-eyed hitwits attacked me and you beat me down a little bit, but that's not going to stop me from coming to get more of you two, because I will happily stand up and fight you any day of the week. He says, tonight, last week I got a little piece, but tonight I'm going to get the whole pie of Tama Tonga. And for Jacob Fatu, if he gets involved too, I'll kick him in the face so hard he won't stop shaking for a very long time. And he starts doing the Jacob Fatu shake. I chuckled. That was funny. That was funny. You know what? I'll get to it after the match. Favorite thing on the show was this match. I thought this match was very good. They worked really well together, did LA Knight and Tama. I thought LA Knight looked fine in this match. I thought Tonga looked really good. There were points in the match where I thought Tonga was going to beat LA Knight. LA Knight went for the BFT the first time, and Jacob Fatu was holding his leg, but LA Knight threw him onto the announce table and went back in the ring. Tonga tried to hit his finisher. He bounced Tama Tonga off the middle ropes, gave him a BFT, and 1, 2, 3. LA Knights beat Tama Tonga, and Jacob Fatu, he immediately hit the ring. He starts clearing house with LA Knight. Braun Strowman's music hits. Braun Strowman gets to the ring. He climbs up, and Jacob Fatu climbs up. Tama Tonga tries to hold him to save it for tomorrow night, but Jacob Fatu slightly pushes Tama Tonga away. He's like, I want to fight this motherfucker now. And they start fighting for a little bit. Fatu bounces his head off the ring post. Strowman's about to come in, and Tonga pulls Jacob Fatu away just in time. So, 2 takeaways from all of this, besides the fact that LA Knight and Tama Tonga had a very good match. Number 1, I can't believe I'm saying this, Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu is the match I'm looking forward to the most tomorrow night. I expect that match. Jacob Fatu is obviously going to win. He needs to win more than Braun Strowman does. I expect this match to be fast pace and a quick sprint. I think you give us 8 minutes with the fans wanting more is the best thing to do in this match, and then give us another match between Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu. I think that's the best way to go about this match tomorrow night. So that's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2. LA Knight's in a really bizarre situation right now. LA Knight's been really cold since winning the United States Championship. His booking hasn't been great. His reactions is awesome. He calls himself the megastar. His reactions and his entrance and his promos and even during his matches, the crowd feels like he's a megastar. His booking has not been great since SummerSlam. He coddled that U.S. Championship and he fucked over a best of 7 series between LA Knight and Carmelo Hayes, which ended up with LA Knight just retaining the title. And then 4 weeks later, or a week later, Shinsuke Nakamura comes back and poof, LA Knight loses the United States Championship. We still don't know why that decision was made. And then LA Knight gets thrown into a feud with the Bloodline for now. And he had a rematch with Nakamura and he lost. It was by DQ, but a loss is a loss. So, where do we go from here with LA Knight? What's LA Knight's direction going into WrestleMania? Because last year, he was white hot. He was feuding with Roman Reigns. He had a clear direction going into WrestleMania with AJ Styles. He won. He had a clear direction after WrestleMania with Logan Paul and the U.S. title. He won. And now we're at a standstill. And I truly don't know what LA Knight's going to be doing at WrestleMania. We've got a long way to get there. But he's in a really bizarre spot right now. So I just hope to figure out a way, something good for him. So it feels like he's just playing side character to Braun Strowman right now in this feud with the Bloodline. And LA Knight feels bigger than that. Carmelo Hayes against Damien Priest. This was just a good match. A very good match. Again, countering moves, fighting on the outside. Carmelo Hayes is a great wrestler. He just hasn't been booked great since being called up to the main roster. Match was very good. Went about 13 minutes. Carmelo was trying to hit a cutter in midair, but turned around and was caught by Damien Priest into a South of Heaven, and Priest defeated Carmelo Hayes on his first night on Smackdown. Kevin Owens and Jimmy Uso in the main event. Match was okay. Nothing special. A lot of super kicks. But a pop-up powerbomb at the end. And Kevin Owens wins. He tries to hit the package pile driver onto Jimmy on the announce table. Cody's music hits. And for the third week in a row, what do you think happens? They brawl again. Cody and Kevin brawl again for a third week in a row. I should say fourth. I'm sorry. So that was SmackDown. Very uninspiring show. Very lackluster show. And we'll see what happens with Saturday night main event tomorrow night. I do think it's going to end up being a good show. We got the contract signing with Cody and Kevin Owens, which is going to be enforced by Shawn Michaels. Braun Strowman versus Jacob Fatu, match I'm looking forward to the most. And we got 3 title matches Sheamus versus Braun Breaker, Nia Jax versus Rhea Ripley, and I'm presuming the main event is going to be Jey Uso against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. And by the way, I wouldn't say it's impossible that Jey Uso wins the title tomorrow night. I'm not going to tell you why, but Jey Uso, a lot of people are saying he's got no chance. Jey Uso has a chance. Jey Uso's got a solid chance at winning that title tomorrow night. So, we'll see what happens. But I'm getting out of here. I'll see you guys tomorrow night for Saturday Night Main Event. Subscribe. Comment down below what you thought about SmackDown. Follow me on Twitter, Colin_Joseph. Subscribe, all that. I'll see you tomorrow night. Have a good night. Stay safe. And as always, stay classy. I'm out. Peace.